A child? You brought a child into my session? Marcus Sterling's voice cut through the Beverly Hills recording studio like a knife. 12 industry professionals froze in their seats. You! His finger jabbed the air. Janitor! Your job is to clean toilets, not parade your kid around like she belongs here. The small girl in the wrinkled school uniform didn't move. Her hand found her mother's. I'm sorry, Mr. Sterling. Michelle Johnson's voice was quiet, apologetic. Her ride fell through. She'll wait in the break room. She won't bother. She's already bothering me. Marcus waved his hand like shooting a fly. This is adult work, art, not daycare. He turned his back, dismissing them both. The girl, Amara, 11 years old, touched the small music note necklace at her throat. Her eyes stayed on him. What Marcus didn't know was that in 48 minutes, this 11-year-old would hit a note he'd been failing to reach for 3 straight days. 3 months earlier, Michelle Johnson had stood in this same studio at midnight, pushing a mop across the marble floors. Apex Records paid her $14 an hour to make the place spotless after the stars went home. She worked alone, 5 nights a week, while her daughter slept in the car outside. Until the night Amara woke up. The girl had wandered in, rubbing sleep from her eyes, and heard something coming through the ventilation system. Music. A voice practicing scales. She'd stopped, tilted her head, and hummed along, perfectly matching the pitch filtering down from Studio B. Carlos Martinez, the assistant sound engineer working late, had heard her. He'd frozen, coffee cup halfway to his lips, because what he was hearing shouldn't be possible. An 11-year-old humming a perfect E-flat in the hallway while her mother mopped. Does she have lessons? He'd asked Michelle. Church choir, Michelle had answered, embarrassed. That's all we can afford. They say. Carlos had made a decision that night. Studio B is empty from 11 to midnight. If you want, she can practice. I'll supervise. No one needs to know. For 6 months, Amara had been sneaking into that empty studio while her mother cleaned, teaching herself on professional equipment, listening to recordings through the ventilation system during the day, replicating them at night. Perfect pitch meant she could hear a song once and reproduce every note. The small music note necklace she wore had belonged to her grandmother, Rosa Johnson, who'd sung gospel in Alabama churches until her voice gave out. Rosa used to say talent was a gift from God, and hiding it was the real sin. Amara never hid. But Marcus Sterling didn't know any of this. He didn't know that the janitor's daughter had been in his building longer than some of his backup singers. He didn't know she'd heard him struggle with Ascension for 3 days straight through those same vents. He didn't know she'd been practicing that exact song every night at 11:15. All Marcus knew was pressure. His last album had flopped. His label, Apex Records, had given him a $2 million advance for this comeback, and so far, he'd delivered nothing. Ascension was supposed to be his redemption. A 4-octave vocal showcase that would prove he still had it, that he was still Marcus Sterling, that age and cigarettes and ego hadn't destroyed what made him famous. Except he couldn't sing it. 3 days. 23 attempts. The song required a sustained E6 in the bridge and a whistle register finale that touched F6. Marcus had managed neither. His voice cracked. His breath control failed. The young Marcus Sterling could have done it. The 42-year-old version couldn't. So when his assistant sound engineer, Carlos, had mentioned that he'd heard someone hit that note, Marcus had demanded to know who. The janitor's kid, Carlos had said quietly. She was humming it in the hallway. Marcus laughed, then gotten angry, then made a phone call. 20 minutes later, Michelle Johnson's car, a 2004 Honda Civic with a broken air conditioner, had mysteriously stopped starting in the parking lot. Security had called her. She'd had no choice but to bring Amara inside while she figured out what to do. Marcus had arranged it. A small act of sabotage to get the girl into the studio, to humiliate her in front of witnesses, to prove that whatever Carlos thought he'd heard was a fluke, a mistake, an impossibility. Because Marcus Sterling didn't lose to children, especially not the children of people who cleaned his floors. The control room was full now. 12 people. Producers, engineers, label executives, musicians. They'd all heard Marcus's meltdown over the past 3 days. They'd all watched him fail, again and again, to hit notes that should have been easy for a man with 5 Grammys. Most of them were white. Most of them had worked with Marcus long enough to know his temper, his arrogance, his casual cruelty toward staff. They'd seen him throw coffee at a Latino sound engineer for bringing the wrong temperature. They'd watched him make an Asian assistant reorder lunch 4 times as punishment for a minor mistake. No one ever said anything. Marcus Sterling made Apex Records too much money. Michelle stood near the door now, holding Amara's hand, ready to leave. She needed this job. Rent was due in 5 days. Amara's school fees were overdue. Her mother, Rosa, was in a nursing home 3 states away, and the bills came every month like clockwork. She couldn't afford to make Marcus angry. But Amara was staring at him with eyes that didn't look away. Small fingers touching that necklace, humming something under her breath, so quietly that only her mother heard it. The opening bars of Ascension. Marcus slammed the headphones onto the console. 23rd attempt. Another failure. From the bridge. Again. The track started. Strings swelled. Marcus reached for the note that had haunted him for 3 days. His voice cracked on E6. The whistle register died in his throat. Stop. This is garbage. The track's wrong. The key's wrong. Someone sabotaged this. Dave Carter, the producer, spoke carefully. Marcus, maybe we take a break. I don't need a break. Marcus's face flushed red. I need competent people. He scanned the 12 faces in the control room, looking for someone to blame. Does anyone think they can do better? Does anyone think this is easy? Silence. Then, a small voice from the doorway. I can help. Every head turned. Amara stood there, still holding her mother's hand. Marcus stared. 3 seconds of silence. Then he smiled like a wolf. Perfect. The child wants to teach me. The janitor's kid thinks she knows better than Marcus Sterling. Michelle's grip tightened. Amara, no. Let her speak. Marcus stepped closer, towering over the small girl. Go ahead, sweetie. Tell the Grammy winner how to sing. Amara looked up at him. Her voice is steady. The note you're trying to hit. I can show you. Dead silence. Marcus's smile widened, eyes cold. You want to try my song? Yes. Fine. Set her up. He turned to Dave. When she fails, and she will, I want it recorded. Everyone sees what happens when people forget their place. He looked at Michelle, voice dropping low and vicious. When your daughter embarrasses herself in front of these professionals, you're both gone. Fired. No reference. Both of you out on the street where you belong. Michelle's face went pale. Please, Mr. Sterling, she's just a child. Then she should learn her place. Marcus crossed his arms. Clock's ticking, janitor. Either your kid gets in that booth, or you both leave right now. And I'll make sure no studio in this city ever hires you again. Amara squeezed her mother's hand once, then let go. She walked toward the recording booth. Michelle knelt down, eye level with her daughter. Her hands trembled as they held Amara's small shoulders. Baby, you don't have to do this. Her voice was barely a whisper. We'll figure it out. We always do. Amara looked at her mother's face. The worry lines, the exhaustion. 3 jobs over the past 2 years. $14 an hour nights mopping floors while her daughter slept in a car. Mama, I've been practicing this song for 6 months. Amara's voice was quiet but certain. Every night when you clean Studio B, I know I can do it. Michelle's eyes widened. You've been... Baby, that equipment is... Carlos helped me. He supervised. I was careful. Amara touched her grandmother's necklace. Grandma Rosa used to say hiding a gift is the real sin. Remember? Tears filled Michelle's eyes. She pulled her daughter close, whispered into her ear. If you want to stop, anytime, you stop. You hear me? I hear you, Mama. Hear you. Okay. Michelle kissed her forehead. Sing like Grandma taught you. Amara took off her backpack, handed it to her mother, walked toward the recording booth. She was so small. The door handle was almost too high for her to reach. Inside, the microphone stand towered over her. She had to pull it down, all the way down, until it was at her height. Need a step stool, Princess? Marcus called from the control room. A few people laughed nervously. Amara didn't respond. She put on the headphones. They were huge on her small head, meant for adults. She adjusted them carefully, like she'd done this 100 times before. Because she had. Carlos watched from the engineering station. His hand hovered over the record button. Dave Carter leaned forward in his chair. The other 10 people in the room shifted, uncertain what they were about to witness. Amara closed her eyes, touched the music note necklace one more time, took 3 deep breaths, the way gospel singers do, filling their lungs from the diaphragm. When she opened her eyes, something had changed in them. She wasn't just an 11-year-old girl anymore. She was about to show Marcus Sterling what real talent looked like. Marcus leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, smirking. Whenever you're ready, kid. We don't have all day. Amara nodded once. The track started. The opening notes of Ascension filled the booth. A slow piano melody, melancholic and searching. The song started low, E2, a note so deep it lived in the basement of human vocal range. Most sopranos couldn't touch it. Most children shouldn't even try. Amara opened her mouth. The note that came out was impossibly rich, warm, resonant, like it was coming from someone 3 times her size. Marcus's smirk froze on his face. Wait, someone whispered in the control room. Dave Carter sat up straight. Carlos's hand slipped off his coffee cup. Amara moved through the first verse with the ease of someone who'd lived inside this song for half a year. E2 to G2 to A2. Her voice had a depth that shouldn't exist in an 11-year-old. Not trained, not manufactured, just natural, like she'd been born with an extra octave in her chest. The melody climbed. A3, C4, E4. She wasn't reading the sheet music on the stand in front of her. Her eyes were closed. She was feeling it, the way her grandmother had taught her in that Alabama church. When you sing truth, you don't need paper. Marcus stood up. How is she? Quiet, Dave said, his voice sharp. He never spoke to Marcus that way. But right now, he couldn't look away from the small figure in the booth. The pre-chorus hit. Amara's voice shifted into her chest register, powerful and controlled. A4 to C5. Then she did something Marcus had never thought to do. She added a run, a gospel riff, spontaneous and perfect, weaving around the melody like she was having a conversation with the music itself. It made the song better, richer, more human. Did she just... Carlos leaned forward. She's improvising. She's rewriting it. She's not following the sheet music, Marcus said, his voice tight. She's supposed to... She's making it better, Dave interrupted. Listen. In the control room, 12 people had stopped breathing. One of the backup singers, a woman who'd worked with Beyoncé, who'd sung on 3 Grammy-winning albums, whispered, "Oh my God." Amara opened her eyes. The chorus approached. This was where Marcus had been failing, where his voice cracked, where 3 days of attempts had shattered against the reality that he wasn't the singer he used to be. C5 to E5 to G5. She hit each note like she was born to sing them. Clear, controlled, no strain, no effort, just a gift. Michelle stood in this corner of the control room, her hand covering her mouth, tears streaming down her face. The bridge approached. This was the moment. The impossible moment. The reason Marcus had been in this studio for 72 hours, failing, raging, blaming everyone except himself. The song required a sustained E6, 3 seconds minimum. A whistle register note that lived in the stratosphere of human voice, where most professionals couldn't survive, where breath control and technique and raw talent had to align perfectly, or the whole thing collapsed. Marcus had held it for 0.7 seconds, with auto-tune, and even that had sounded strained. Amara inhaled. Her small rib cage expanded. Everyone in the control room leaned forward. She hit E6, clean, crystal, no wobble, no strain, and she held it. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4, 5, 6 seconds of sustained E6, and her voice never wavered. It hung in the air like something holy, like someone had bottled lightning and poured it through an 11-year-old girl. Carlos dropped his tablet. The sound of it hitting the floor made 2 people jump. Dave stood up, mouth open. The backup singer grabbed her colleague's arm. "That's not... She can't..." Marcus's face had gone pale. His hands gripped the edge of the console. But Amara wasn't done. She took the note higher. F6. Then F-sharp 6. A run that Marcus had never written, had never imagined, because he'd never had the skill to execute it. She climbed through the whistle register like she was walking upstairs, each note perfect, each transition seamless. Then she came back down. 3 octaves in 5 seconds. A chromatic scale that shouldn't be possible without years of classical training. From F-sharp 6 all the way down to F3, each note ringing clear and true. It wasn't just technical. It was beautiful. She was telling a story with the notes. A story about being small in a big world. About having a gift no one wanted to see. About singing anyway because silence was worse than rejection. The room had gone completely silent except for her voice. One of the executives, a man who'd signed 20 platinum artists, who'd heard every voice worth hearing in this industry, was crying. The song moved into its finale, the moment that had broken Marcus 23 times. Rapid whistle register runs, F6 to G6 and back to F6, requiring breath control beyond what most humans possess, requiring precision and power and something else, something that couldn't be taught. Soul. Amara executed every run flawlessly. Her voice danced through the impossible passages like they were easy, like she'd been doing this her entire life. Each note was bell clear, each transition was silk. Then she held the final G6, 4 seconds of pure, sustained power. A note that existed at the edge of what a human voice could do. And then, in the last moment, she brought it down. Soft, gentle. From G6 to E4, like she was laying the song to rest. The contrast was devastating. All that power, all that technique, dissolving into tenderness. The final note faded. 4 seconds of absolute silence. Then the control room exploded. Everyone stood at once, clapping, shouting. 2 people were openly crying. Carlos was yelling something in Spanish that might have been a prayer. Dave had his hands on his head like he couldn't believe what he'd just heard. "That's impossible!" someone shouted. "She's 11! That's not..." "I've been in this industry 20 years, the backup singer said, her voice shaking. "I have never heard anything like that. Never." Michelle ran to the booth door. Through the glass, she could see her daughter taking off the headphones, small hands careful with the equipment. Amara looked up, saw her mother's face, and smiled. Just a kid again. Just an 11-year-old girl who'd done something extraordinary, and didn't quite understand why everyone was making such a fuss. Dave turned to Marcus. His voice was quiet but firm. "Marcus, the monitors were off." Marcus's voice cut through the celebration like a blade. "She couldn't have heard the track properly. It doesn't count." The room went silent again. Different this time. Uncomfortable. "Marcus," Dave said carefully, "the monitors were on. We all heard, it doesn't count." Marcus's face was red. "She got lucky. A fluke. Anyone can hit notes when they're not under real pressure." He grabbed his jacket off the chair, headed for the door. "I need air. When I come back, I want her gone." The door slammed behind him. In the silence that followed, Carlos turned to Dave. "We recorded that. All of it. Time-stamped. Every note." Dave nodded slowly. He was looking at Amara through the glass, the small girl who'd just done what a 5-time Grammy winner couldn't. "Save that file," Dave said quietly. "Something tells me we're going to need it." 15 minutes later, Dave Carter found Michelle and Amara in the hallway. "Mrs. Johnson, wait." His face was serious, but kind. "Your daughter is extraordinary. That wasn't luck. That was once-in-a-generation talent." Michelle's eyes filled with tears again. "I want to set up a proper audition. Official. Get her into our youth development program." Dave pulled out his phone. "Let me send you a contract draft. Studio time. Her name on the track. This is real." "Are you serious?" Michelle's voice shook. "Your daughter could be a star." Behind them, Marcus Sterling stood in the break room doorway, watching, listening. His jaw clenched tight. He pulled out his phone. That night, 11:47 p.m., an email went out from Dave Carter's account to Apex Records' legal department. Subject: urgent, theft of proprietary material. The email claimed Amara Johnson had stolen confidential recordings. Accessed Marcus Sterling's private files without authorization. Her performance was based on illegally obtained material. Attached was proof, security badge logs showing Amara in studio archives 3 months ago. Real logs. But the context was missing. Michelle had sent her daughter to organize old files while she cleaned. Legitimate work. Marcus made it look like theft. The email demanded immediate termination. Legal action if Apex hired her. It was signed with Dave's name, sent from his compromised email. Marcus had stolen the password 2 weeks ago, saved it for exactly this moment. Next morning, 8:30 a.m., Michelle arrived with Amara for the official session Dave had scheduled. Security stopped them at the entrance. "Badge isn't working, ma'am." Jerome, the guard, looked uncomfortable. "Says it's deactivated." "There must be a mistake. Let me call upstairs." Jerome spoke quietly into his phone. His face grew confused. "Ma'am, I'm sorry. They're saying you're not authorized anymore." "What?" "Dave told us to come." "Michelle?" Dave appeared in the lobby, pale and confused. "Why didn't you come up?" "They won't let us in." Dave turned to Jerome. "She has an appointment with me." Jerome handed him a tablet. Legal flagged her. Theft of proprietary material. Marcus Sterling filed the complaint. Dave's face cycled through shock to anger. He grabbed the tablet, read the email. "I didn't send this. I was asleep at 11:47. He looked at Michelle, then Amara. "This is a setup." The elevator opened. Marcus Sterling stepped out with 2 lawyers and Apex's head of security. Expensive suit, professional expression, cold eyes. "Good morning, Dave. I see you got my email." "Your email? This came from my account." "Did it?" Marcus smiled slightly. "Strange. Maybe someone accessed your computer. Someone is sneaking around after hours." He looked down at Amara, the girl who'd humiliated him, who'd hit notes he couldn't reach. "Theft is theft," his voice carried across the lobby. Staff were arriving, gathering. "I don't care what color you are. I don't care how old you are. Steal from me, face consequences. Michelle stepped in front of her daughter. She didn't steal anything. She memorized my song, my technique, my artistic property. Marcus pulled a folder from his lawyer. Badge logs prove she had access. She took what wasn't hers and used it to manipulate my producer. He looked at Dave. Probably promised him publicity. Maybe other things. These people always find a way. 20 staff members stood watching now, some recording on phones. The casual racism landed like a slap. Dave's face went red. That is completely out of line. She's 11. Then she should learn early that actions have consequences. Marcus turned to security. Escort them out, both of them, and review every file this woman has touched. If there's more theft, I want to know. Amara stood still, holding her mother's hand, backpack on her shoulders. She looked up at Marcus Sterling, the man who'd humiliated her mother, who was now calling her a thief in front of dozens of people. Her voice was small but clear. I have questions, if you'll let me ask them. Marcus looked annoyed. What could you possibly— Why would I steal a song I improved? Her voice didn't waver. Why would Mr. Carter offer me a contract if I'm a thief? And why did you fail 23 times if it's your song? Silence. Marcus's jaw tightened. How dare— She asked valid questions. A voice came from the back. Carlos Martinez stepped forward, phone in hand. And I have valid answers. Carlos held up his phone. The screen showed a video, Amara in the recording booth, headphones on. I have the raw security footage from yesterday. All of it. Unedited. Marcus's face went rigid. That's confidential studio property, and I'm the one who archives it. Carlos stepped closer. Ma'am, would you like a copy? The lobby crowd had grown. 30 people now, phones recording. Marcus pointed at Carlos. You're fired. Security, escort. I'm the engineer you threw coffee at 3 weeks ago. Carlos didn't move. Remember? I've been documenting everything since, waiting for the right moment. He swiped his screen. Another video appeared. Marcus screaming at an Asian assistant. Another. Marcus calling a black musician too urban. 47 videos, 3 months. Dave pulled out his phone. Marcus, I never sent that email, but I can show what I did send. He turned his screen to the crowd, a text to his lawyer. Timestamp 11:52 p.m., 5 minutes after the fake email. Need contract template for a new artist. Incredible talent. Black girl, 11, Amara Johnson. The timeline proved Dave's real intent, before any accusation existed. 2 interns stepped forward, one black, one Latina. The black woman held up her phone. We recorded what you said yesterday. When you called her mother a janitor, it was shameful. Made her say thank you. The Latina woman's voice shook. We've kept a log for HR, but HR never acted. We were scared. She looked at Amara. Not anymore. Marcus's face had gone white. His lawyers whispered urgently. This is conspiracy, Marcus said, voice rising. You're destroying me. No. Dave's voice was hard. There are consequences. He turned to security. I want a full investigation, not cherry-picked logs, everything, every timestamp, every file. The security chief nodded slowly. He'd seen the videos. His expression had changed. And I want copies of all the footage, Dave gestured to the phones. Legal needs to see what really happened. Marcus grabbed his lawyer's arm. We're leaving. This is harassment. I'll sue. You won't. A woman in an elegant suit stepped from the elevator, Sharon Lee, head of A&R. She'd been silent during yesterday's session, watching, evaluating. Mr. Sterling, she said calmly, we need to talk. My office, now. Marcus stared at her. For the first time, something like fear crossed his face. Sharon turned to Michelle and Amara. "Mrs. Johnson, please wait in the guest lounge. Someone will bring you coffee and—" She looked at Amara. "Hot chocolate?" Amara nodded, still holding her mother's hand. "Good. This won't take long." Sharon's voice was steel wrapped in silk. "Mr. Sterling, shall we?" It wasn't a question. 90 minutes later, Marcus Sterling walked out of Sharon Lee's office with his legal team. His face was calm. Too calm. The meeting had gone badly. Sharon had reviewed Carlos's footage. She'd seen the timeline. She'd heard from the interns. Marcus had tried to spin it. Creative differences, misunderstandings, artistic temperament. Sharon hadn't bought any of it. But Marcus Sterling hadn't survived 20 years in this industry by accepting defeat. He'd survived by controlling narratives. And he still had cards to play. By noon, he'd called an emergency meeting. 6 Apex Records executives gathered in the boardroom, 5 white, 1 Asian. Marcus sat at the head of the table like he owned it. "We have a crisis," he began, his voice measured and professional. "This intern situation has gone viral. It's already online." He wasn't lying. Carlos's lobby footage had leaked. 300,000 views in 2 hours. Comments flooding in. Hashtags starting to form. But Marcus was about to lie. The girl's mother leaked confidential session footage to social media. He pulled up a fake Twitter account on the screen. Username Michelle J. Truth. Created that morning by Marcus's social media manager. "She's trying to destroy my comeback for clout. Classic exploitation." The executives leaned forward, studying the tweets. "She's positioning herself as a victim, her daughter as a prodigy." Marcus's voice hardened. "But look at the pattern. She gets her child into my session, records everything, then releases it to pressure us into a contract. It's extortion." One executive, a white man in his 60s, the CEO, frowned. "Marcus, are you sure? The footage shows edited footage." Marcus was ready for this. They cut out the part where I offered to help the girl, where I was encouraging. They made me look like a monster to gain sympathy. He pulled up another document. "And here's the real problem. If we don't shut this down legally, the label looks weak. Our contracts mean nothing. Every wannabe with a phone will think they can manipulate us." 3 executives nodded. They'd seen this before. Social media mobs, public pressure, artists who knew how to play the victim. "What do you propose?" the CEO asked. "Cease and desist, immediately. Legal action if they continue posting our proprietary content." Marcus's voice was cold and certain. "And the janitor is terminated. Effective today. Final severance, nothing more." 2 executives shifted uncomfortably. "Marcus, maybe we should hear both sides. We don't negotiate with extortion." Marcus leaned forward. "I have 5 Grammys, a 20-year career, albums that made this label millions. What does she have? A phone and a sob story." He let that hang in the air. "This is business," Marcus continued. "We protect our artists. We protect our contracts. Or we look like we can be bullied by anyone with a viral video." The CEO looked around the table, reading faces, calculating risk. "Legal will issue the cease and desist," he finally said. "Michelle Johnson's employment is terminated. Dave Carter, you're on probation for poor judgment in bringing unauthorized personnel into a session." Dave, who'd been sitting silent in the corner, stood up. "You're not even looking at the evidence. We're looking at 20 years of Marcus's career versus 1 afternoon of drama." The CEO's voice was final. The meeting was adjourned. Marcus had won. For now. 2 hours later, parking garage, level 3. Michelle was packing the last box from her locker into her car trunk, crying silently. Amara sat in the passenger seat, staring straight ahead. Marcus appeared from behind a concrete pillar. No lawyers this time, no witnesses, just him and the woman whose life he'd just destroyed. Look, this got out of hand. His voice was different now, quieter, almost reasonable. I'm not a monster. I'm a businessman. Michelle didn't turn around. Here's the deal. Marcus pulled an envelope from his jacket. $10,000. Cash. You sign an NDA. You never sing professionally. You never talk to the press. You disappear. Michelle's hands stopped moving. Why would I agree to that? Because I have connections. Marcus stepped closer. His voice dropped to something cold. One phone call, and you'll never work in this industry. Not just Apex. Any studio. Any venue. You'll be blacklisted. He glanced at Amara through the car window. Your daughter's talented. Be a shame if she never got to use that talent because her mother made bad decisions. Michelle turned to face him. Her voice shook. Are you threatening my daughter? I'm protecting my legacy. Marcus's mask slipped. You're nobody. You clean floors. Your kid is nobody. Stay nobody. Take the money, or I'll make sure nobody remembers her voice. They'll only remember the scandal, the theft, the manipulation. He put the envelope on her car hood. 24 hours. Think about it. Marcus walked away. What he didn't see, Carlos Martinez, standing 2 rows over behind his van. Phone out, recording everything, and Amara's math teacher, who'd come to pick up her daughter from the same garage, standing frozen 20 feet away, hearing every word. Marcus Sterling had just made his biggest mistake. He'd threatened a child, on camera, with witnesses. That night, 7 people gathered in Carlos Martinez's small apartment in Echo Park. Cramped living room, mismatched furniture, but no one cared. Michelle sat on the couch, Amara beside her. Dave paced by the window. 2 interns, Keisha and Maria, on folding chairs. Carlos at his laptop, and Sharon Lee in the armchair. Head of A&R. I've been investigating Marcus Sterling for 8 months, Sharon said quietly. HR complaints buried. Payoffs to former staff. The label protected him because he's profitable. She opened a folder. Documents, settlements, NDAs, complaint forms stamped resolved in red. 3 artists, 2 engineers, 1 assistant, all people of color, all paid to stay quiet. Sharon's voice was steady but angry. Total payouts, $470,000 over 3 years. Michelle's hand covered her mouth. I couldn't move without ironclad public proof. Internal complaints disappear. Settlements are sealed. Sharon looked at Carlos. But now we have something they can't bury. Carlos pulled up the parking garage video, pressed play. Marcus's voice filled the room. You're nobody. Your kid is nobody. Stay nobody. The threat, the blacklist, the bribe, all captured clearly. He threatened a child, Sharon said. On camera, with witnesses. That changes everything. Amara's math teacher, Mrs. Reyna, Filipina, 50s, sat near the kitchen. She'd driven straight here after witnessing the garage confrontation. I heard every word, she said, voice shaking with anger. I teach that girl algebra. She's brilliant, kind. That man threatened to destroy her future because she sang better than him. Dave stopped pacing. We have evidence, multiple witnesses. What's the play? Sharon leaned forward. 3-pronged, public, legal, media. She pulled out her phone. I know a music journalist at Rolling Stone. She's been investigating industry abuse for 2 years. This is her story. Public performance, Carlos added. Industry showcase in 5 days. Open mic at the Roxy. If Amara performs there, live in front of agents, producers, press, they can't say it's fake. Michelle looked at her daughter. Baby, that's a lot of pressure. I can do it, Mama. Amara's voice was quiet but certain. Sharon nodded. And legal. I'm filing a formal complaint with the Label Board and California Labor Commission. Hostile work environment, racial discrimination, retaliation. She looked at Michelle. You'll get your job back. With back pay. Marcus Sterling will face consequences. He'll fight, Dave said. Money, lawyers. The label's protected him for years. The label protects profit, Sharon interrupted. If Marcus becomes a liability, if the public turns, if the press exposes him, if artists refuse to work with him, he's done. We make him more expensive to keep than to cut. Maria spoke up. The lobby video, 500,000 views already. People are angry. Good. Sharon's voice was steel. Anger creates pressure. Pressure creates change. She turned to Michelle. The next 5 days will be brutal. Marcus will try to destroy you before this goes public. Spread rumors, pressure people, maybe intimidate you again. Michelle's jaw set. Let him try. Sharon smiled, small but genuine. Okay then. She looked at Amara. Sweetie, in 5 days you'll sing in front of 200 industry professionals. Live, no edits, no auto-tune. Can you do that? Amara touched her grandmother's necklace. Yes, ma'am. You'll sing Ascension again, the song Marcus couldn't perform, but this time, Sharon's eyes glinted. We add something, a children's gospel choir, kids from your church, all kids of color. She let that sink in. We're not just showing your talent. We're showing what he tried to silence. Community, heritage, the future he wanted to blacklist. Carlos nodded. I can get a choir together. 48 hours. Dave grabbed his jacket. I'll arrange stage time. Sound check. The interns stood. We'll spread the word. Make sure people show up. Mrs. Reyna nodded. I'll testify, officially, whatever you need. Sharon extended her hand to Michelle. Thank you for trusting us. Michelle shook it. Thank you for believing in her. As everyone prepared to leave, Amara pulled out her math homework, started working on equations at Carlos's kitchen table. Like this was just another Thursday. Like she wasn't about to change everything in 5 days. Carlos watched her, amazed. How are you so calm? Amara looked up, smiled. My grandma used to say, if you know you're right, you don't need to be loud. The truth sings itself. She went back to her homework. Outside, across the street, Marcus Sterling sat in his car, watching people leave, taking photos, making notes. He'd followed them. He knew they were planning something. And Marcus Sterling always struck first. 5 days later, the Roxy Theater on Sunset Strip, 7 p.m., 5,000 seats, everyone filled. Industry professionals, agents, producers, journalists, cameras everywhere. Marcus Sterling sat in the VIP section, 3rd row center, expensive suit, confident smile. The label had invited him to show support for emerging talent. He had no idea Amara was performing. Sharon had made sure of that. The show progressed. Pop singers, rappers, a jazz quartet, standard showcase fare. Then Janelle Simmons walked out. The crowd erupted. 3-time Grammy winner, voice of a generation. She wasn't on the original lineup. Sharon had called in a favor. Our next performer is someone special, Janelle began. Someone in this industry tried to silence. Let's make sure they hear her now. The curtain opened. Amara stood center stage in a beautiful dress. Behind her, 40 children in white robes, gospel choir from her church, ages 8 to 14. Every child black or brown. The image was powerful, intentional. Camera cut to Marcus. His smile vanished. Face drained. He started to stand. The music journalist beside him, Rolling Stone, touched his arm. Stay. You'll want to see this. The track started. Ascension. Amara opened her mouth. E2, that impossible low note, clean, resonant. The audience cheered. They knew the viral story, the janitor's daughter, the accusations, the threats. She moved through the first verse effortlessly. E2 to G2 to A2. Her voice filled the theater. The gospel choir hummed. Low harmonies. The song became richer, deeper, spiritual. Marcus gripped his armrests. Pre-chorus. A3 to C5. She added the gospel runs Marcus never imagined. Runs that made his song better. People stood. Phones out. Recording. Crying. The bridge approached. The moment. The note that destroyed Marcus's comeback. E6 sustained. 3 seconds minimum. Amara inhaled. The theater held its breath. She hit E6. Crystal clear. Held it. 3, 4, 5, 6. 7 seconds of perfection. The crowd went wild. Marcus tried to stand. The journalist blocked him. Not yet. Amara took it higher. F6, F sharp 6. Whistle register requiring technique beyond most professionals. The gospel choir joined, 40 children harmonizing. The sound was transcendent, not performance, worship. Then Amara improvised. A run to A6, higher than she'd ever sung, higher than Marcus ever attempted. A note at the edge of human capability. She hit it, held 3 seconds, came down through 3 octaves in perfect control. The theater erupted. 200 industry professionals on their feet, screaming, crying, clapping until their hands hurt. Amara held the final note. Powerful. Pure. Brought it down to gentle E4. Power dissolving to tenderness. The last note faded. 3 seconds of stunned silence. Then chaos. Standing ovation. 2 minutes straight. People are shouting. One producer yelled, "That's a voice!" Amara stood center stage, small, calm. 40 children are smiling behind her. Then the screens lit up. Carlos had prearranged this. The parking garage video played. Marcus's voice through the speakers. "You're nobody. Your kid is nobody. Stay nobody." The threat, the blacklist, the bribe, everything. Applause died. Gasps, boos. Marcus was trapped. Cameras swung toward him. He covered his face. Sharon Lee appeared on stage, took the microphone. "I'm Sharon Lee, head of A&R at Apex Records. What you just watched is abuse of power. This ends tonight." She pulled out a statement, read clearly. "Effective immediately, Marcus Sterling's contract is terminated. Apex will implement third-party HR review and anti-discrimination training, and Miss Amara Johnson has been offered a development deal with full child protections, if she accepts." The crowd roared. Marcus lunged forward. "You can't do this! I made this label! I'm Marcus Sterling!" Security moved in, guided him toward the exit. His shout echoed. "She's nothing! Nothing!" Amara stepped to the microphone. Her small voice filled the space. "I'm not nothing. I'm just getting started." The crowd exploded again. Marcus was escorted out. Cameras followed. Journalists swarmed. He shoved a camera. Security intervened harder. Outside, his car was surrounded. Someone spray-painted racist on the hood. Inside, Amara stood with her mother. The 40 choir children. Janelle, Sharon, Carlos, Dave, the interns, Mrs. Reyna, everyone who believed. The Rolling Stone journalist approached Michelle. "Mrs. Johnson, I'd like to interview you. Your story. Amara's. Everything." Michelle looked at her daughter. Amara nodded. "Okay. It's time people knew the truth." By morning, 15 million views. Hashtag Justice for Amara trending worldwide. Marcus Sterling's career was over, but more importantly, 3 other young artists came forward. 2 black women, 1 Latino man, all with stories of Marcus's abuse, all with evidence they'd kept hidden for years. The industry was listening now. And it wasn't just about Marcus anymore. It was about every Marcus. Every powerful person who'd used that power to crush the vulnerable. The conversation had changed. One 11-year-old girl had changed it. By singing. 48 hours after the Roxy performance, the California Labor Commission opened an investigation into Apex Records, workplace discrimination, hostile environment, retaliation against whistleblowers. Marcus Sterling faced civil lawsuits from 4 former employees, 3 women, 1 man, all people of color, all with stories that matched the pattern Carlos had documented. His Grammy nominations for the upcoming cycle were withdrawn by the Recording Academy. Not suspended, withdrawn, a distinction that mattered. The comeback album was canceled. His tour, already sold poorly, was officially scrapped. 2 other labels that had expressed interest in collaboration deals quietly backed away. Marcus Sterling, 5-time Grammy winner, platinum-selling artist, voice of a generation, was done. Meanwhile, Michelle Johnson sat in Sharon Lee's office on the 15th floor of Apex Records. Same building where she'd mopped floors for 3 years. Different view now. "We're offering you a position," Sharon said, sliding papers across the desk. "Artist-family liaison. You'll advocate for the needs of young artists and their families. Make sure what happened to Amara never happens to anyone else." Michelle stared at the contract. Salary, $75,000 a year. Benefits, retirement. More than 5 times what she'd made as a janitor. "And this," Sharon slid another document. "Legal settlement for wrongful termination, $150,000. Michelle's hands shook. I can't." "You can, and you deserve it." Sharon's voice was firm. "Take the weekend. Think about it. But Michelle, we need people like you here. People who know what it costs to be invisible." In the room next door, Amara sat with Janelle Simmons and a team of lawyers, child entertainment attorneys specializing in protecting young performers. "Standard development deal," Janelle explained, "but with modifications. You can't release a full album until you're 16. That's non-negotiable. School comes first." Amara nodded, listening carefully. "But you can release singles, with parental oversight, creative approval, and everything goes into a trust fund for your education." Janelle smiled. "Your mom controls it until you're 18. Not the label, not me, her." One lawyer pointed to a clause. "And this. Any session you're in, you have the right to bring an advocate. Your mom, your teacher, anyone you trust. No one can make you work alone." "We're calling it Amara's Protocol," Sharon added from the doorway. "Every child artist at Apex gets these protections now, because of you." 3 months later, Ascension, Amara's version, dropped on all platforms. It hit #1 on iTunes in 3 days. #1 on Billboard Hot 100 in 2 weeks. The music video featured the Roxy performance. Unedited, raw, 40 children in white robes, Amara's voice soaring over them, and at the end, a dedication. "For Grandma Rosa, for every child told to stay quiet, sing anyway." 6 months later, Grammy nomination day. Michelle and Amara sat together in their new apartment. 2 bedrooms, nicer neighborhood, medical bills paid. Rosa, Amara's grandmother, was flying in next week. First time in 3 years they'd all be together. The nominations were announced live. Best Pop Performance, Ascension, by Amara Johnson. Michelle cried. Amara hugged her. On the same list, Marcus Sterling's name was absent. His album hadn't been released. His career was a cautionary tale now. A footnote in think pieces about industry abuse. But the changes were bigger than one man's downfall. 15 major labels adopted child protection protocols modeled on Amara's protocol. Independent advocates. Education requirements. Trust fund protections. Anonymous reporting systems. The Recording Academy created a Young Artist Protection Committee. New standards for working with performers under 18. California State Senator Maria Gonzalez introduced the Young Performer Safety Act. Mandatory background checks, limited work hours, financial protections, inspired directly by Amara's case. 300 young artists were now protected under regulations that hadn't existed 6 months ago. That evening, Amara taught her weekly music class. Community center in her old neighborhood. 30 students, ages 8 to 14, free lessons, free equipment access, funded by her single sales. A shy girl, 9 years old, black with braids, raised her hand. "Miss Amara, I'm scared to sing in front of people." Amara knelt down to her level, touched the music note necklace at her throat, Grandma Rosa's necklace. "I was scared too," she said softly. "But here's what I learned. Your voice matters, even when people try to tell you it doesn't." She stood, looked at all 30 faces, brown and black and beautiful and young and full of potential. "My grandma used to say a voice is a gift. Hiding it doesn't protect you. It just makes the world quieter." She smiled. "So let's make some noise." The class began to sing. 30 voices, imperfect, joyful, loud. One of them might be the next Amara, might have that once-in-a-generation gift, but all of them deserved protection, respect, a chance. That's what had changed. Not just one girl's vindication, but a system that finally decided children mattered more than profit. Outside the community center, a car slowed. Marcus Sterling sat behind the wheel, watching through the window. The children are singing, Amara teaching, everything he'd tried to destroy, thriving without him. He drove away. No one noticed. He didn't matter anymore. 2 years later. Amara Johnson was 14 years old. 3 singles released. 2 of them are platinum. 1 Grammy win for Best Pop Performance. She was in 9th grade, honor roll. Still lived with her mother in that same apartment. Still wore her grandmother's necklace every day. Every Saturday, she taught music class. 70 students now. 5 community centers across Los Angeles, all free, all funded by her music. Last month, she announced a scholarship fund. Full tuition for 10 underprivileged music students each year, named after her grandmother. The Rosa Johnson Memorial Scholarship. Michelle Johnson was now Director of Artist Relations at Apex Records. She'd helped implement protection policies that became industry standard. She spoke at conferences, testified before state legislators, advocated nationally for child performer rights. Mother and daughter were featured in a documentary that premiered at Sundance. Finding Voice, the Amara Johnson story. It won the Audience Award. Marcus Sterling released an independent EP 18 months after the Roxy incident. It sold 4,000 copies, failed to chart. He attempted a public apology on social media. 2 years too late, widely seen as insincere. Comments were disabled within hours. He now taught vocal technique at a small studio in Van Nuys. 15 students, none of them knew who he used to be. No major label had contacted him in 20 months. The industry had moved on, but his impact remained, not in his music, but in the changes his cruelty had forced. 43 major labels now had child protection protocols. The Young Performer Safety Act passed in California and New York. 5 other states were considering similar legislation. 400 young artists were protected under regulations that existed because Amara Johnson had refused to stay silent. Sharon Lee became CEO of Apex Records. Carlos Martinez was senior audio engineer. Dave Carter was executive producer. The 2 interns, Keisha and Maria, both had full-time positions in A&R. Mrs. Reyna still taught math, still had Amara in her class for tutoring, still remembered the day she heard a powerful man threaten a child in a parking garage, and decided to be a witness instead of walking away. Sometimes the smallest voice in the room becomes the one no one can ignore. If you saw an 11-year-old being dismissed today, would you speak up? If you had power like Marcus, would you choose humility over ego? And if you were Amara, would you have the courage to sing when everything was on the line? Here's something most people miss when they watch the Roxy performance. At 3 minutes 42 seconds, watch Amara's hands. She's not just singing. She's conducting. A tiny gesture showing she wasn't intimidated. She was leading. Only sharp eyes catch it. Stories like this matter because they're happening right now. Somewhere, a child with a gift is being told to stay quiet. If this moved you, share it. If it made you angry, comment below. Tell me what real justice looks like. And if you're fighting your own battle, subscribe. You're not alone in this. Never underestimate the power of a child who knows their worth.
At Black Voices Uncut, we don't polish away the pain or water down the message. We tell it like it is because the truth deserves nothing less. If today's story spoke to you, click like, join the conversation in the comments, and subscribe so you'll be here for the next Uncut Voice.